Thank you very much. I'm Anne Frances Bayless. I'm the cellist of the Fry Street Quartet. On behalf of my colleagues in the quartet, I'd like to welcome you all tonight to Crossing Borders. This is a very, very exciting evening in that it's the culmination of a lot of hard work and a lot of moving parts. This is all music of living composers you're going to hear this evening. So first and foremost, I'd like to acknowledge the incredible hard work, enthusiasm, and tenacity of our students who are playing these pieces. For some of these students, this is their first time working with a living composer. For some of them, it's their first time playing music that's written, earlier than the last 50 years. So it was a big undertaking for everyone, a lot of really fun challenges. Each of these groups had the opportunity to work with the composer, who wrote their piece, in some cases in person, in some cases via Zoom, and in a few cases both. So these students had the opportunity to have a back and forth with their composers, which is really, really a very special kind of creative relationship. And it's quite unique for students at an undergraduate level to be working with composers in this way. We have with us tonight, and have had with us this entire week, 3 composers in residence, Doctors Stephen Mitten, Don Norfleet, and Jungyoon. And they each have a piece that is having its world premiere this evening. So I'll start with Stephen's piece, and I will add that Stephen is very warmly welcomed here at USU because Stephen is actually a graduate of Utah State University. In fact, he's a graduate of my cello studio. Stephen graduated with his degree in cello performance in 2015, but went on to get degrees in composition at ASU for his master's and a doctorate from the University of Michigan. He's a very accomplished composer, award-winning, in fact. And this, the piece you'll hear of his later in the program, Juvenoia, was a piece in search of a premiere. It was one that kind of got left behind in the COVID shuffle, and he approached Fry Street and said, I've got this piece that never got a premiere. And we said, well, we've got a program for that piece, and so you'll hear it tonight. The other 2 world premieres you'll hear this evening are co-commissions by Utah State University's Kane College of the Arts and the Gabriela Lena Frank Creative Academy. Now, a lot of you may know Gabriela's name. She's actually been the visiting composer in residence here at Utah State for the last several years. And Gabriela's Creative Academy brings together emerging composers, some of whom from underrepresented demographics. It's an incredible program, and I urge you, if you're interested to learn a little bit more about it, look it up online. But tonight, both Dr. Norfleet and Dr. Wee's pieces were, as I said, co-commissioned with GLF CAM and USU. I should note, too, that Dr. Norfleet is a CREA Fellow this year, and Dr. Wee has been a CREA Fellow in the past. That's Composers for Racial Equality in the Arts. We're really, really excited to have had these 3 composers with us this week. They've been incredibly generous with our students. They've workshopped the pieces with their world premiere ensembles, but they've also given very generously of their time in other ways, giving lectures, participating in panel discussions, giving workshops of various types. It's really been a thrilling week, really, really exciting. Each of the composers will speak about their pieces. The 3 we have here in person, and the rest via video, except for the first piece on the program, Gabriela's, and she asked me to introduce this piece. Really quickly, though, I forgot something important, which is to say thank you for all of the support that we get, not only from the Kane College of the Arts and the music department, but also from the Maria Eccles Kane Russell family, in the form of scholarship support, the endowed string quartet residency here, this beautiful hall, among other things. We're also very grateful to the Chamber Music Society of Logan, which not only provides us with incredible concerts every year, but also master classes with their guest artists. In fact, several of the groups that you'll hear tonight were actually coached by the Talia Quartet, which was the group in residence with Chamber Music Society of Logan this week. They gave a fantastic master class. We're really grateful for the CMSL's support. And to Gabriela's piece, this piece is entitled Hilos, which means threads. And it's a 10-movement work, and she describes it as being kind of like a Peruvian pictures at an exhibition. The title comes from As I said, the word threads, she's kind of paying homage to the beauty of Peruvian textiles. She has a Peruvian blood in her, and she often writes on themes related to her lineage. So this is the last movement of that 10-movement work. It's called Bombines. Apologies for my pronunciation. It's a humorous dance which pays homage to the ubiquitous bowler hats that Peruvian mountain women wore. Bombines means bowler hat. So please enjoy the performance tonight, and again, thank you so much for joining us.
Massachusetts, and I also spend a lot of time in Ireland. As a performer, I play Irish traditional fiddle and viola, sing, and dance in an old style of Irish percussive dance called seanos. As a composer, I weave elements of Irish traditional music into my Western classical music, and I also write tunes and songs in a traditional style. The piece which you are about to hear, CREA, is written from a place of recollection. CREA is the word for memory in the Irish language, and I love this quote by Irish poet and philosopher John O'Donoghue, where he says, "Memory as a kingdom is full of the ruins of presence." I wrote CREA after returning home to Boston from Ireland, and I had been there on a trip that was longer than any of my previous visits. It was during this time that I was beginning to come to the understanding that Ireland would be a growing part of my life. It was no longer a place I would just go to visit once in a while, but a place that I would keep returning to for longer and longer periods of time. So as I was writing CREA, I was missing Ireland in a new and different way. I was remembering the feelings of being there, the presence of being there, and also starting to miss Ireland in the way that one might miss a second home. So I hope you enjoy this piece, and thank you for listening.
Nicolas Benavides, and I'm a composer currently living in Long Beach in beautiful Southern California, but I'm originally from New Mexico. I wrote the piece Cuates, originally for the Gabriela and Frank Creative Academy of Music, and the violinist Lucy Lin, who commissioned it as part of her In Tandem series and album, which is a great album with so many of my colleagues that you should absolutely check out. When I got the commission, it came soon on the heels of me getting the announcement from my sisters, who are twins, hence the name Cuates, announcing to our family that they were both pregnant, completely coincidentally, 3 months apart. And it just was just such a wild coincidence and such an interesting time during the pandemic that I couldn't really think about much else aside from how our family was going to change and sort of the future looking forward. They're about to have the first grandkids. And it made me reflect on my sisters as they changed throughout time, growing up, bickering, just as all siblings do, but we obviously hold them in a different light because they're twins and we expect them to always get along, unfairly perhaps. And how they were never quite in tandem, to borrow the name of the album, until they began to get in their stride as they got older and they figured out how to be compared but at the same time be independent. So this piece is dedicated to them and to their 2 beautiful children, Poppy and Kian. Fun extra coincidence, just a few months later, my wife and I found out we were pregnant. So it was really a big shift in the family all at once. But in this piece, I really wanted to play with the same instrument. We were given the option to choose any 2 instruments, violin and something else. And I asked if I could do 2 violins because my sisters were twins. They were always compared to one another in one way or another, even though they're completely different people. And I really wanted to explore the idea of 2 of the same instrument and how can they be so similar and how can they work against one another and work with one another. So this piece is all about subtlety. It's all about shifting bow positions. It's all about playing interlocking rhythms. It's about playing different styles and timbres until eventually there is an alignment and it works and they make beautiful music together. So they're going to be interrupting each other, getting in each other's way, playing with the spacing between the 2 of them. And the last thing I'll leave you with is my sisters Lena and Elise, start with E and A. And as a fun little tidbit, I included a lot of the open strings of the violin, A and E, in this piece. I hope you enjoy it. I really enjoyed writing this work, and I'm so happy that it's being performed again. Thank you so much. Enjoy the show.
I am Lena. I am a composer, vocalist, and multi-instrumentalist. As a composer, I often incorporate into my music, into my compositions, the elements of Tatar folk tradition, as well as the sounds of nature that I try to portray, capture in my work. In the piece that you are just about to hear, it's about sounds of nature. So I wrote this piece during the springtime, and back then I was in Austin, Texas, and there were so many different kinds of bird songs. So I really enjoyed it. There were so many different kinds of sounds, especially in the morning time. And in the piece, in the first movement, you will hear like the day start from something quiet to the sound of wind, and it's about big space where sound travels far. And then the second movement, it's about two kinds of birds. It's a more fun one. And so the first kind, it's they are living birds, and then the second kind, it's those mechanical birds from the older times. It's kind of a music box. They would make them from metal, I believe, and then you would have a little key to turn it on, like a music box, and then this mechanical bird would sing for you. So I also wanted to say a huge thank you to everyone who organized this concert, to all the teachers and students putting together this concert. I look forward to hearing my piece as well as the music by my composer fellows. I hope you enjoy the concert. I hope you enjoy my piece, and thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. I am thrilled to be here. This is my first time in Utah, so I'm from LA, so we're actually getting, I guess, some weird weather over there. So there's like a torrential rainstorm, and here's a bit of snow. So, well, I'm really excited about this program because they're going to be two performances of, a performance of two poems from different collections by Jean Toomer, who is a poet, a mystic, a philosopher, a writer, with whom I had kind of like an obsession with since I was in college. So I had a chance to set some of his more famous works from a collection called Cain, which is in its 100th year of publication. And the piece from that collection, Cain, is called Her Lips Are Copper Wire. And so it was, it's the way I look at it is it's kind of like a guy who's all sort of sparkly with love and other things, and it's the feelings that he's going through, and he's describing different scenes of describing the emotions and things that he's feeling. And so the piece, in that piece, which is the second one, they're just different scenes and different emotions and different things that he's looking at. And so you'll hear different styles of what I'd imagine he may have seen in 1921. So that you might hear a little bit of jazziness, a little bit of maybe some theatrical kind of music, and maybe a little funky things in there, little jazzy things. And the first piece is called And Pass, and that's from a whole other collection. And that's from unpublished works, and I want to thank the Yale Beinecke Library for granting me permission to set that poem. It's actually a very short poem, and so what I've done was I am giving you two different interpretations of that piece. So there's one interpretation of it, and then there's kind of a stop, and then there's the same poem that's repeated, and you get sort of another feeling from that. So, so I hope you enjoy it. So what I aimed for in And Pass was, the words are just so beautiful, and the musicians, they're wonderful, and I just wanted to have something really pretty to highlight the beauty of the vocalist, Caden. And yeah, so hope you enjoy it. And thank you, Utah State University, and the wonderful students and faculty here. I've had a marvelous time.
I stand alone, salute and pass, proud shadows.
This is Jungyoon. Thank you so much for being here today. This is actually my second time in Utah. The first time I was here, it was during the pandemic. I graduated from the University of Michigan in 2020, and my ex-boyfriend, who's my current husband now, yeah, we drove all the way cross country from Michigan all the way to San Francisco, where we live now. Yeah, so I've been in San Francisco for a couple of years now. But I remember Salt Lake City, we made a stop there, and I have a very good memory because, you know, it was a generous city because at the time, all the toilets were closed. But, you know, there were a little bit of, you know, toilets here left that was open to the public. And, you know, that was, you know, all I remember, you know. It was a very generous city, so I'm really happy to be back here. Yeah, and going back to San Francisco, it was really rough, you know. San Francisco, you know, everything was closed, you know, and I had, you know, a box of cookies, you know, in my car, and you know what happened there on the way, you know. Anyhow, yeah, set aside, my piece is called Dampung. It's in Korean. I'm born in Korea. I moved here when I was 16 for high school. Dampung refers to change of color in leaves, so from green to, you know, red, yellow, and burgundy when the weather changes from summer to fall. So in Korea, we have a lot of maple trees, And in October, there are these 2 weeks where Dampung happens. And it's only 2 weeks in the whole year. It happens every single year. So every year, that's something we talk about when that happens. Oh, it's that time of the year, so we all go out for Dampung dates. And when I visited my mom back in Korea after a couple of years of pandemic, and I was finally able to go, it was exactly that time. So when I got there, that was something that everyone was talking about. But when we talk about Dampung, we also talk about how beautiful it is. Not only that, but we also talk about how temporal it is. It's not something that it stays with us. Yeah, it's only with us for 2 weeks at a time. So my mom was telling me, oh, it's so beautiful. Look at all these dampung. But she was also telling me how sad it is that it'll be gone very soon. So I thought about that experience as she was referring to me, my time and her time together, and every time we see each other, it's only for a brief moment of time. So I really wanted to capture that beautiful, warm moment in my piece, and you'll see a lot of really temporal gestures that are rarely audible and always moving. Hope you enjoyed the piece. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Akshaya Avril-Tucker, and I composed In Whose Mouth the Stars for string trio. I grew up studying cello and classical Indian dance in the Odissi style, which is from Eastern India. My love for South Asian music, arts, culture, spirituality frequently comes through in the music that I write, from melodies and ragas to meditation to mythology. So in this piece, In Whose Mouth the Stars, I tell the story of the god Krishna, who when he was a child was caught eating sand. His mother Yashoda was concerned and scolded him, prying his mouth open. But there, instead of sand, she saw the entire universe and beyond, galaxies, every element of our earth, the weather, the human mind and its senses, and even she herself and her own village. So in telling this story through music, I explore the sounds of far and near. The near sounds feel the tension of her mother's motherly concern and anxiety, and the many different faraway sounds viewing our Earth, our Milky Way, and even beyond. I intend to show deep wonder and love. If you are familiar with Indian classical music, you may recognize fragments of Rag Charukeshi swirling in this near and far space. I'd like to give a big shout out to the students and faculty at Utah State. You have worked so hard to make this such an inspiring event, and you guys are amazing. So thank you so much, and please enjoy In Whose Mouth the Stars.
Good evening. It's good to be back here at my alma mater, Utah State. Great to be in Logan again. I've been really impressed over the past few days with the caliber of the musicians that you have been hearing this evening. It really doesn't seem that long ago that I was in their shoes as a student here in the string department, playing chamber music on this very stage. In many ways, the piece that you're going to hear tonight reflects my experience coming into this new role that I found myself in as a new faculty associate at Utah State University, which is bringing me back here several times a year to reconnect with my mentors, the Fry Street Quartet, and to see myself in the young students that are here. The piece you'll hear tonight, Juvenoia, is about this concept of us going through our lives and having this experience of finding ourselves in an older generation than we used to be in, suddenly becoming part of a later generation. And I think at some level we can all relate to that experience at some point in our lives. I think it's part of the human experience. And so I never heard a word that encapsulates this concept until just a few years ago when I encountered the word juvenoia, which is an invented word. It's a portmanteau of juvenile and paranoia. So it often is used in relation with the phrase kids these days, right? The sense that I don't understand this generation, or I don't understand the words they're using, or the technology that they're using, these sorts of things. But that's been part of the human experience, I think, from time immemorial. And to have a word to describe that is really fascinating. I've become very fascinated recently with words that are invented to fill a need. And so this is one of these pieces that began this journey for me of exploring invented words and how we construct meaning as human beings. So this piece is a bit of a scherzo. It's a little bit of a reflection of the poking fun, some of the playful humor, the playful banter between generations. Some of it not so playful, though. Some of it very wry, some of it darkly humorous. I think you'll hear a little bit of that in the piece. But I've just been very impressed with these performers. It's great to see some of my composition students on the stage as performers, having gotten to know them through their compositional voices, but also seeing them, for me, many of them for the first time as performers. So that's been a very enjoyable experience. This whole idea of coming full circle has been on my mind a lot lately, especially with another project that's coming up very soon. I will be back here in Logan in 2 weeks to participate in the 20th anniversary celebration of the string program at Utah State University with the Fry Street Quartet, with a piece that I've written called Closed Loops. I think you can imagine what that means to me based on my experience coming back here, but to also be able to see some of my colleagues from the past with present students here. It's going to be a real joy, and so I hope you'll keep your eyes out for that event. And on behalf of the Kane College of the Arts, I want to thank you again for coming out and spending your evening in support of 21st century music by living composers. Thank you.
Thank you.